This is the Cardiff Business School podcast, where we explore the power of public value in everything that we do. My name is Peter Wells, and I am the Pro Dean of Public Value here in Cardiff Business School. And today, my guest is Dr. Andrew Glanfield. So, Andrew, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and I was really keen to have this discussion with you today because I think your story is a story that's not been told very widely and needs a bigger audience. And it resonates absolutely with what we're trying to do with public value and how we cherish not just the academic side of our school, but also all of our professional services teams for whom you are the champion. But I want to start further back. You are something of an anomaly, I would dare to suggest, in that you have a PhD in physics.
That's right.
Like my daughter, as it happens. Semiconductors, I believe.
Semiconductor physics, that's right. Yeah.
And you worked in that area for a little while.
Briefly in that area, that's right.
And got involved in intellectual property rights.
Moved to the patent office and had two very, very happy years there.
Oh, okay. Interesting enough, so did my daughter get involved in intellectual property rights and hated it.
Oh, no. It's quite desk-based.
Right.
You know, it's quite legal.
Yeah.
In fact, they employ scientists and they teach them the legal parts of it.
Yes, so exactly. That was her story and she didn't enjoy it. So then you became part of the business school. Why did you make that transition? What was the motivation for you?
Well, it was interesting. So I genuinely enjoyed my time at the patent office. I was there for 2 years, 2 very happy years, met some great friends I'm still friends with now. But it was very desk-based research, and I'm quite an outgoing. I like people, quite personable. And so the nature of the work, although very interesting, and the environment very supportive, wasn't quite aligned with what I was looking for. So a job came up at the university, which was actually in what we now call the Research and Innovation Services.
Yes.
And it was the university's first research development officer, which was to bring someone in to do 2 things: to work with academic colleagues to try and find funding and secure funding and work with companies and build those partnerships, but also to look at patents and trademarks and spin out companies. So obviously there was a bit of an
the link.
There's the link, I know. So I was the university's first research development officer. I worked with the physical sciences and engineering schools, maths, computing, physics, engineering, chemistry, which was really nice and lovely. And I was there for a number of years. I had a slight promotion. But for professional services, still the case that if you do want to progress, you do need to get a new job. There isn't a personal career path. There's no promotions.
Which is very strange.
Something we've been discussing for many, many years. And it is true, you can't all be the chief operating officer of the university.
Sure.
So you can't, but we don't have any sort of progression in role. And something a bit more like the civil service would be preferable. So for many years, for example, I've championed the idea of always looking internally first before we look externally.
Okay.
Now, that won't necessarily suit some roles sometimes, and sometimes you do need some new blood to come in, absolutely. So it has to be used with care, but we should always, in an organisation this size, look internally first to see if there's a candidate to take on a new role.
Good.
Absolutely. And we still do that in the school, even though the rest of the university don't do that now. So we've maintained that locally.
Again, the link to public value immediately emerges.
So I was very lucky to be working with a number of colleagues from the business school. Professor Mo Naeem, who's still with us.
Mo Naeem.
Absolutely. And Professor Peter Hines at the time. And colleagues in the engineering school and what was called the Manufacturing and Engineering Centre at the time. And we were putting in a bid, so I was part of the bid preparation team for what was called an Innovative Manufacturing Research Centre, which was EPSRC funded. And it was, at the time, because this was a while ago, an astonishing $3.5 million. It doesn't sound so much now, but was quite big back then.
Quite a lot of money.
So we were successful, and that was fantastic news. I only had a supporting role, but they were looking for someone to be the manager of that new centre. And so I applied for and was lucky enough to get that role.
And that brought me into
the school, and then when the job became available for the first school manager, so I've had a sort of series of firsts, which has always been really great, actually. Chance to express yourself.
Yes, you can create the role as it emerges. So
absolutely.
And then 2005-ish, you were school manager then?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, maybe. Let's have a think. But yes, let's go with that. I should have brought my notes, but that is about right.
Precision is not required, but
it's probably a little bit later than that, actually.
But it's around about 20 years.
Yeah, so I had a year out.
Another unit of currency might be 5 deans.
5 deans. It's 5 deans, and in fact, I'm just up for my 25th anniversary at the university.
Okay.
I've been in the role for quite a long time. It's changed immeasurably over
I'll tell you
that
what
time.
hasn't changed. The photograph.
Oh.
You look on the website.
On my email, yeah, I know. I've not updated that. I've still got black hair.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is true. And I haven't got a beard. So no. But I spent a year actually when we created the colleges at Cardiff, which is under Professor Colin Reardon, our Vice-Chancellor, before the current Vice-Chancellor, when the colleges were introduced, because before that we had just the schools. I applied for and was lucky again to be accepted as the first registrar for the Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences College. So I have been out and then I came back after that. Yeah. But most of my working career today has been in this role.
And you've been even associated with external bodies as well, right?
I've been very active in the Chartered Association of Business Schools.
That's a fellow?
I'm a fellow. I am a fellow. I'm a fellow,
good.
Whatever that means. But yes,
I don't know what it means either, but it sounds important.
It means that they can ask me to do things for them. So I do know what it means. For free, that's right. But I absolutely strongly support that organisation. Yes. We are so lucky in the business school sector that we have that organisation of all business schools that wish to join, whatever their mission, and mostly in the UK, but a number of overseas ones too have joined more recently, and some sort of allied type organisations too in the business education world. And what's key about the Chartered Association of Business Schools for me is that they value professional services.
Right.
So it has as well all the academic structure and the network in there. There's a professional services managers committee, a professional services annual conference.
Right.
It's fantastic. So I sat on the committee for many years and I'm now fellow. But since I've left the committee, I did my time. But I set up a group of the Russell Group Business School managers. So there are those, not quite all of us, and we meet every so often. Not only is it a great chance to see some friends and enjoy some time together, more importantly, it is such a friendly and welcoming community that even though we are all in direct competition for students, for example, and funding, the sharing and the development and the support in that group is so valuable.
Right.
So valuable.
Yes, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because you take that attitude that you have inside the school outside at the same time. I think you probably need to explain, at least for some of our audience, what it is that you do as a school manager.
So my children ask me this.
Yeah.
My daughter says what I do is I sit in the desk or my desk of office and make paper airplanes and throw them into the bin. Okay. And no, I don't do that. It is interesting. The term school manager is very old-fashioned. In fact, most other places, most other business schools, the term is usually head of operations and planning or something like that.
Okay.
Which might
a bit more descriptive.
Might make a bit more sense to people. So school manager is a bit of a funny old thing. It could be so many different things, but it's the term we have at Cardiff, although we are reorganising at Cardiff, so it won't, that term and that particular configuration won't exist going forward in the autumn. So my role as currently configured is looking after the planning, the finances, the professional services that are based in the school structures, about 80 to 100 of those, looking after the estates.
That's a big team.
IT. And then liaising with the associated professional services of the university, the other areas that are not under the sort of school's aegis, but do work very closely in partnership with us. So it's a big team.
And a big role.
And it's a big role, but it's a really interesting role because there are elements of planning, long-range planning. What are we going to do in 5 years' time? How's that going to work? How are we going to fund ourselves? All the way through to the people side of things, actually developing people, leading those teams, helping those teams. I've got some fantastic deputies, which make that side of the role, quite a joy often. And the team are wonderful. They're not without problems always, like any organisation, but still.
Yeah, and I do feel that in some ways you are the institutional memory. And that's something very valuable to have been in that sort of position, however we describe it, for that length of time. Gives you such a wealth of insight into how these organisations run. And I'm wondering, does that explain why you haven't felt the need to do something else?
I think the first thing I'll reflect on that as a positive, because I think it can also be a negative.
I wouldn't think of it as a negative.
No, but I'll explain why I think I've managed to not, or I managed to mitigate against. If someone is in a post for too long, they can become stale, it can become baked in, you can be resistant to change. Two things I've done is I've always firstly wanted to share with people. There's often you come across people who are gatekeepers, and I do not want to be a gatekeeper. So I'm very open and honest with my deputies and with whichever dean and whichever management team. I'm very happy to share, very happy to talk about it. I wonder why people tolerate me sometimes with all my... But it's important they understand things. We don't have to dwell on the past, but we do have to understand the path. And so sharing my knowledge is so important to me. Because I might not be here tomorrow, and so that would be a bad situation to leave an organisation in.
Sure.
But in terms of why I'm still here, it's actually quite an interesting job. when I've had different roles, and I've enjoyed all my roles in my career. This one, I find the variety fascinating. I find the combination of the longer term planning and the operational detail really interesting, because those two things are linked in a way that often organisations unlink them.
Yes.
And I think we do that with our peril. If we have planning over there and operations over there, and there's no linkage between them, I think that is problematic. Yeah. And I do very much enjoy working close to the academic community. And some of my best friends are academics. Is that what people say? But it is true. It's absolutely true. Yeah. And I don't think I could ask for a better environment to work in than Cardiff Business School.
Yes. But you've never felt the urge to almost go back to some of your own academic training. I mean, I'm sure, for example, you could write some very interesting articles, papers on your current role, but it's not something that you see as kind of within your world or within your, or maybe you're just too busy.
So very busy, but I do write papers actually. In fact,
there you go.
I've been writing quite a few papers, not published in journals, but for the university and for the school. So, particularly at the moment, exploring as the university goes through a change project, a big transformation, exploring that and what that means for the different layers of management. So,
this is a good use of your knowledge.
And I enjoy that because it's creativity. I can add, I can help.
Yeah,
I hope.
And I particularly wanted to touch on how you look after the professional services teams within the school. I mean, I've been to some of the meetings that you've held. There's a genuine vibrancy in the room, and it got a real sense that the people in the room look to you to nurture them, to protect them, to entertain them, to many things. And I'm wondering, how did you learn that? Where did that come from?
Oh, there's a good question. I mean, I like people. I do like people. So outside of work, I'm involved in all sorts of volunteering, whether it be from running we run a monthly family cinema, run monthly games club for families. I'm a beaver leader, so I've always liked people. That's just, and I like.
How interesting that it resonates on both sides in that way.
It really does. But in terms of, I think one of the key things is honesty. I try to be as honest as I can and genuine as I can. This is me. It is me. You see the same me as you'll see outside of work. It is the same me. Sure, you've got to be professional. That goes without saying. Absolutely. And, you do have to respect confidentiality and, due business processes. However, where you can, you should share. And that's what the approach I've always taken on my staff. And I say I'm very lucky to have some great managers working with me, I should say. Or perhaps I work for them sometimes, I'm not sure. And that delegation, that empowerment has been at the core. I'm not a micromanager.
Right.
I will get involved. I'll roll up my sleeves. I've been found sweeping the corridors before. I'll do it again, no doubt, when we have a big visit for someone. But however, it is so important that people feel empowered.
Yeah.
So that sense of genuineness, that sense of honesty that I try my very best to work at, and then empowering people, giving people what we can in terms of agency.
Yeah. So, and I can see that, well, for me at least, that seems to fit with our whole public value ethos, that you live it, and try to execute it, so to speak, through your role in public services. I'm wondering then is if the drive you have to make that happen sometimes maybe comes into a more challenging setting. For example, it's not always the case that academics treat their professional services support teams in a suitably professional manner. And you are often the one that has to somehow intercede. And this speaks to me of a level of diplomacy that is required. And I'm wondering, how do you navigate those situations? They are challenging sometimes.
I think what I try to do is look at them in terms of the work situation and the people involved. So there's the kind of technical elements, and sure, we have to discuss those. And it's right that people are frustrated with process and procedures or mistakes or whatever that may have happened in both directions. Yeah. We can't pretend that isn't the case. There are going to be tensions and frustrations and frictions on occasion. So we have to recognise those, work to try and remove them. But then importantly, there's the other part of things, there's the people part of things. And in the school, I've been lucky that successive deans have been 100% supportive of the fact that they don't have to like each other. We don't have to go out to the pub with each other or to the cinema, but we do have to respect each other. So regardless of the friction and the problems that may occur, and they do.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Yeah, it's absolutely key that everyone treats each other with dignity and respect. And the important thing is to address, if you like, not the individual, you're a bad person. These are the things you get taught in management courses, but it's the behaviour. Did you know that this behaviour is causing this problem?
Right.
In my experience, nobody wants to see someone upset.
Right.
Nobody wants to upset someone else. They're frustrated, they're cross, they're annoyed, they can't understand why it's not working, but they don't actually want someone to go home and cry. They don't want that. So if we humanise people and we do say, look, there are humans involved in this. Yes, the process. It's a problem. We recognise that. Absolutely. Yeah. We'll do what we can within the boundaries of our agency to sort that out. And we'll say sorry. But these are people. And we need to treat them with humanity. And that, I think, is how I've tried to address it in that sort of two different...
And I think it's been remarkably successful. I wonder now about... You've been really good at kind of running that side of the organisation. You kind of lubricate the whole process and all the rest of it. You've been busy on your external engagement activities. What about students?
I love students. And one of my favourite times of year is induction. And so every year in induction, I always volunteer. I do the treasure hunt.
Okay.
So because
this is so typical, you.
Well, absolutely. I mean, to a certain extent, this is an indulgence because otherwise, how do I get to meet the students and spend time with them?
Yeah.
My children are students too, so I could see it from that point of view. And I was a student once many years ago, but actually to remind myself of why we're there, and actually I really like it. Yeah. They've just come away from home, possibly just stepped off a plane. There's somewhere new, somewhere, they're nervous, they're worried. I'm not their parents, but I can help and I can be there and I can be empathetic and signpost them if they are having problems. But what a great place to sort of remind yourself
you get
why
the energy,
you're here.
You get the buzz.
I absolutely love it. And so much of our work is sort of behind the scenes at computers in meetings to actually remind ourselves. Going to graduation is another wonderful thing to do. So I sat on the stage last year in the Utilita. What a fantastic atmosphere. Students will be looking and they'll recognise their lecturers, whether they'll recognise the school manager and amongst all that, I doubt it. But it doesn't matter. We're there for them.
Of course.
And to be part of that celebration reminds you of what one of the big key academic missions is.
It's the purpose of our role as much as anything. Absolutely.
And then, unfortunately, on some occasions, I do get involved with students when things go wrong.
Yeah.
That's not as a happier scenario. But still then, I do value the roles that both the students and our academic colleagues and the support services play in those contexts.
Yeah, and I can see, again, that attitude you have plays in that setting as well, that you can help resolve issues and so on. I think in some respects, this discussion portrays accurately enough, the careful, serious, thoughtful side that is Andrew Glanfield. But there's a fun side to Andrew, which kind of bubbles out from time to time. And I wondered if your little things that you brought along with you today would maybe illustrate that. Perhaps you could show them to
absolutely.
us.
So I brought along a couple of things I've done with the professional services section. My big passion outside of work is board games.
Can I just explain?
Yeah, that's a jigsaw. This one is a card game, a simple card game.
Polygons jigsaw, okay. And this one is called The Mind.
The Mind. It's an interesting card game. I will briefly explain what I did with the professional services. But outside of work, I love board games. I help run a couple of different board games clubs. These are modern board games, the ones people might have heard of, things like Ticket to Ride, Carcassonne. These are the more ones, or Catan. They're not necessarily the ones I play, but they're ones people will have heard of. So not Monopoly, not Ludo, although I will play game. I'll play any game. But I love rules. I love understanding the rules. I always say you have to play a game twice, once to understand the rules and then once to understand how to win. But most importantly about board games, I love the interaction. It's such a social thing to do. Right. There are solo board games, or you can play board games on your own. I'm not interested. It's the people, it's that interaction, it's being around them, it's exploring the game together. I love teaching the rules. I don't mind if I win or lose. It's not important. It genuinely is the playing. I love the
taking
play.
Part. Perfect.
So these were two different examples we did with the professional services section. I'll start with this one. This is the simpler one. So we had a range of jigsaw puzzles. We were looking at different ways of being teams. So this is a simple jigsaw. It's not particularly complicated, although it is a picture of a sort of a colour block. And we split into teams, and each team had to have a different way of completing the jigsaw. One team, we had a clear leader. One team, we broke up and everybody had so many pieces. One team, different people had to work on different colours. And we looked at how those different structures might make it more or less efficient to actually complete a task. And the jigsaw was a task. And it's just quite fun. So there was a sensible purpose behind it. So that was great fun, actually. It was great fun.
Excellent.
The other one we did it's called The Mind. It's available on all good shops. There's a fantastic, plug here, a fantastic game shop in Cardiff called Rules of Play. They are very good. But this is a simple set of cards with the numbers 1 to 100 on it. Or all you got is 1 to 100. And you deal them out in a group, and you can play this. It's more of an exercise than a game.
It's amazing how animated you then become.
I'm so excited now.
You're on a roll.
So if we had some cards each, I'm going to give you some cards there, Peter. You've got
Thank you
4.
very much.
I've got 4.
Can I look at them?
Yeah, you can, but we can't show each other.
Oh,
and the idea is, in everybody, you'll have a set number of cards each, and you play it in rounds. And what we have to do is we have to get in tune with each other. So again, it's about exploring each other's pace and tempo at work. Some people are desperate to jump ahead. Some people want to consider it more. So what we have to do is try and lay the cards in numerical order. And they're from 1 to 100. Actually, the cards we've been dealt, this is going to be really hard because they're not very well spread out. And so it was great to see the teams interact.
So how many would you have around the table?
We were playing in groups of 6.
Okay.
And you start with 1 card each, and then you have 2 cards, 3 cards, 4 cards. And it's the game is, if you can do it, so you win. But it's more the how do you sync yourself. So if I was to play a 48, I don't know if you've got a lower card than that, you might have. So now we have to work out what do you have next. So we are in silence trying to get into each other's sort of work modes. It's a bit of fun, but it does encourage us to think about the fact we're not all the same at work.
Yes.
We do work differently. So then I'm going to play a 58, which might not be right. We're still okay. There we are, 65, and we've gone wrong because I had the 61. You get the idea. Yeah. It's an exercise, it's an activity. But nice. It was amazing to see how people enjoyed it. You do have to be careful with play because sometimes it can make people uncomfortable.
Sure.
So we do have to be careful. I mean, if you mention, let's all go paintballing, some people will love it. Some people, it's the worst thing they can imagine. So the more gentle side of play, particularly if there's a reason for trying to explore things, I found actually some people who are more reluctant usually, oh boy, did they enjoy it. And after they say, it's great, I really enjoyed that. Yeah. But you do have to be careful. Not everyone enjoys it.
No, I can see though, you've got that purpose beyond the kind of surface level of the game, which is then, of course, the game is worth playing in its own right, but you have that value where you're trying to actually convey something quite different. And then I can imagine that in many settings, this is useful. I mean, we play with Lego, as you know, in some of the business school games. So we've all been there. Andrew, time has run out.
Thank you. It's been lovely to talk about it.
Yes, it's just been unbelievably brief and been really interesting. There's so much that you do. There's so many things we could have covered if we had more time, but I'm deeply grateful that you could come today.
Thank you.
I thank you for all your participation, and we wish you well organising us into the future.
Thank you.
This has been the Cardiff Business School podcast, where we've explored the power of public value in discussion with Dr. Andrew Glanfield, who runs our professional services support teams within Cardiff Business School. It's not been as dry as one would imagine, and what we can see from this is the passion and the enthusiasm and the energy that Andrew has brought to this role for the last 20 years. Thank you very much.